everybody, and welcome Thomas Barta. Whoa, what an amazing time to have you on the show. Thomas is going to sort of do his thing and then run to the airport because I suspect he's off. Is it on holiday, Thomas?
It's actually true. We're going to Spain for 10 days.
Lucky you, lucky you. But look, guys, let me introduce Thomas to you. It probably needs no introduction to any of you. But look, Thomas is one of the world's foremost thinkers, speakers, and writers on the subject of marketing leadership. Thomas has had an illustrious career, super jealous of it. And I pick his brain too many times about his McKinsey days. And he was an ex-partner of McKinsey. And one of the key pivotal things that Thomas has done is he's an author, and he's written a book called The 12 Powers of Marketing Leadership. Now, the book was actually underpinned by the world's largest study in marketing leadership. If I'm not mistaken, Thomas, was that 68,000 respondents to that survey?
It was 68,000 responses, and each person, in fact, stepping back, INSEAD Business School let me use their 360 tool in addition to our own research, and they had 68,000 in total responses from executives from all over the world. So if you, for example, are someone they surveyed, you would have 10 people surveying you, and and all that together, indeed, it was 68,000. So
guys, in which case we can pretty much say that if there's anybody in the world who can tell you about what really makes marketing leaders and how to actually become a marketing leader, there's probably no one better placed than Thomas Barta to do this. I mean, that's just phenomenal. So I'm sure Thomas is going to give us a few glimpses into what it is going to take to become a marketing leader and to excel in your careers as he has. So I'm really excited to be able to unpick some of those secret ingredients from Thomas. But just finally, just beyond this, I just want to say that I found Thomas to be a real gentle soul, if I may say so, Thomas. A real gentle soul. And he's been really generous with his time to the School of Marketing, which I'm really grateful for. And the one thing that he's adamant about is actually seeing the marketing industry succeed within the context of an organization and us winning ground from other functions as well. So, it's just a hand-in-glove fit with what we're trying to achieve with the School of Marketing as well. So, Thomas, it's with great pleasure that I welcome you this morning to the show to hear about your personal experiences and, of course, how marketing leaders actually become the people that they are. So welcome this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So, welcome from me as well, Thomas. Fantastic to have you on. I'm just going to do a minor interlude. I've just seen Gary Pine join, and if it's the Gary Pine, I think it is. I worked with him back at 118. And Gary, I was in Bristol yesterday, so we weren't so far apart yesterday. Great to have you on, Thomas. I met you, I think, 2014 as part of the Marketing Academy Fellowship when you were working with McKinsey. And that was a really pivotal year in terms of me figuring out a few bits and pieces and springboarding me into some of the things I've done. So I'm enormously grateful for that, and enormously grateful for you coming on the show. So to get started, you're off to Spain for 10 days. Amazing. I'm not at all jealous. But obviously these things are now becoming possible. So my question is, as the world starts to open up, what are the things that you're enjoying doing again or enjoying starting? What's becoming possible for you as the world opens up?
I tried to figure out what I didn't like during COVID, apart from COVID. And there were so many great things, e-learning took off, I enjoy doing that. I'm convinced now I could tap into people so fast, because I could call someone and they go on, F time. But what really sucks is talking to people on a screen instead of a live audience, for example. Because you can't see what they're saying and what they're seeing and how they're reacting, or not seeing new places. I realized that I traveled to places and the things that I didn't do on purpose, but just hang out there, waiting for it, and then watching things, and that was all gone. And I really, really look forward to having that back again, these unplanned accidental insights by sitting in a cafe, seeing someone doing something, saying that's very interesting.
Yeah, I'm that curiosity again, which I know you have in spades. So, Richie, back to you.
Not at all. Look, I just want to ask about and perhaps the intersection between this sort of strange time in all our lives and leadership. And kind of wonder what you think has been the impact of leadership in the context of COVID and hybrid working and screen time. Has it suffered, or do you think people have stepped up to the mark?
We just looked at the number one topic that people were discussing in the leadership course that we do, Marketing Leadership Masterclass. The number one topic far and away was imposter syndrome. And I think what happened is that a lot of people who had a tough job, all of a sudden sitting at home on their own, I've met people who join firms and never have met anybody live. And people are nervous about this. And there's some stress, and not everybody has the confidence saying, I'm fine. So no, there is nervousness, and we need to help people rebuild again that confidence. So I think confidence to me is the big thing. Nobody says this. Everybody says, yeah, I'm fine. I can do Zoom at home in my kitchen and my dog loves it. But, people are uncertain because you get less confirmation, affirmation. I think that's been, to me, is the big gap that has all widened that we need to close again. We need to rebuild people's confidence.
100%. I can vouch for that because this week we had a first all-person Exco meeting. And it was wonderful. And it's obvious the things you've missed. You come to realise the value of the things you've missed. And just one very small observation is that I heard a concept about listening to learn, like genuinely wanting to listen and learn, versus listening to win, which is where you're just waiting to make the point you always wanted to make, and you just actually zoned out to the rest of the conversation. And isn't it a thing that when somebody puts their little yellow hand up in Teams, they're only thinking about the thing they want to say, and they've actually lost the rest of the conversation? So anyway, hallelujah, we can all get back and start to gain our confidence again. So Thomas, you're going to tell us a lot about your marketing insights. For context for that, I'd love to know the dots that you've joined to get your career to where it is now. So how did it all begin? Was it very planned or all serendipity? What's your journey up to this point as context for all that you've learned?
So I'm probably more of a planner than other people, and then things go wrong and you change course. I think that's the headline. So I wanted to become a marketer. I was very young. I was not watching movies. I was watching advertising. I found that much more interesting. And my parents got very nervous about this because they felt that's wrong. It's commercial. So anyway, I became a marketer, and I really made, and that's I also wanted to become a pilot at one point, and then I had no orientation, and okay, that didn't work out. I then started dentistry because I was afraid of dentists, and I felt, the best way to fix that is to study it. Anyway, I did all these weird things, and I can talk more about that. But I became a marketer eventually. Really, really enjoyed being a marketer. In fact, the only thing I enjoyed more than being a marketer is being able to travel as a marketer, which has in the end been my main motivation for almost everything I've done in life, is to get to places. Places will go, show as it was, perfect fit. And as a marketer, I was then, when I was being marketing director, which, there was a time when CMO wasn't that big thing. Marketing director was the thing. That's it, right? I was frustrated with marketing because I felt even in a fast-moving consumer goods firm, finance is taking decisions. So I said, I'm out, joining McKinsey, tell CEOs how marketing works, only to figure out that they already knew that. And then I observed marketers and non-marketers, and it's very interesting. I had this marketer, became a friend, and I was working with him, and we working on that presentation for the board. He was a big budget decision that was there, and we really prepped everything. And then he stood up and he basically completely forgot his script and started talking about the brand experience and about millennials at the time was a thing. And you could see that everybody on board was like, what the fuck is this? And they fired him. And I thought, I'm obviously failing here. And so I got really interested in helping marketers actually make the case. And I was the dean of McKinsey's leadership program. So I kind of like, as a hobby, I felt, let's make it a job. So that's how my career has progressed over time. And that's why I'm here. And I'm basically trying to, push marketers and help marketers win in the boardroom.
Thomas, what was interesting about what you said was the weird and wonderful things that you did in order to see new places and travel. It obviously instinctively to me then says that you've got this passion for curiosity, a thirst for curiosity, a thirst to kind of have new experiences. And clearly that's one of the hallmarks of what people say makes a great marketer, to always be curious. And so diving in a little bit into what makes great marketers, is that an attribute that is still top of the league? And maybe what are some of the other things that you think are important attributes in order to lead to marketing success?
That's a great question. In fact, that's a question that I started out with when I left McKinsey, wanting to help marketers, but really not knowing what I was doing. But okay, let's do research. Exactly to your point, what is it actually that makes a marketer successful? First off, to your point, let me answer your first question. Curiosity is super important. In fact, we could show in the data that marketers are the most curious people among all executives, and that is, it's clearly there. When you then look at the actual success factors, and I looked at business success. We did a neural network model and we crunch all that data. And if you're not familiar with neural network models, read something about. They're basically trying to figure out what drives what, instead of some just basic correlations. And the interesting thing is that the things that we care about, like technical marketing skills, which are important, right? Don't get me wrong, are about 15%, 1.5. Personality, about 5%. And I can tell you in a second why that is true. Very different personalities can be successful in marketing. B2B versus B2C, very small, not a big difference. B2B, people always say, oh, it's so much easier in B2C, in consumer goods. And then consumer goods, people say, yeah, but everybody's a marketer here, right? So it's very hard. Gender, very small influence, surprisingly. So the big players are the company. So if you work in a really terrible place, it's not so easy. But far and away, the biggest drivers are marketing leadership skills, the ability to take an idea and actually make it happen inside a firm. And that stood for 55% of success. And that's the big overlooked in education and marketing, because we teach people branding and pricing. And that's, of course, it's important. Like, don't get me wrong, we got to keep doing this. But we have to tell people that once you leave university and you come into this firm, there may be a lot of people who just don't agree with you. And how do you deal with that? And that is the key to success in marketing.
Yeah, and we'll explore that a bit more in terms of the 12 powers. I want to pick up on something that I've heard you say before, which is that you said that marketing is the toughest cool job in business. So it seems a paradox. Can you explain that for us?
Marketers love marketing. They really do. And we can show in the data, people just really love it. And we have people like you, Mark, that go on courses for the Marketing Academy to become CEO. And then you decide, I love marketing. And that's not everybody wants to get out of marketing. Now, some people do, but I'm saying that it's a very strong, it's a very powerful force. It's a fantastic job and people absolutely love it. And even the people who step up, become CEOs, they still love marketing. But it's hard. Because everybody can say no. Your boss can say no, your colleagues can say no, your clients can say no. You have very little formal power as a marketer. You have to convince. And that's why it's so hard and it's draining. And there are days when you just want to just get out. But here's a cool job. Come on. What we can do with brands, when we shape prices, when we shape a new product, when we change people's mind about something, that's amazing. I still, Mark, remember your campaigns you did for Direct Line. It's this iconic, right? And who can do this in business?
Thomas, I just want to read out a couple of things coming on here in the chat. So Sophie Devonshire, hi Sophie, says, love listen to learn versus listen to win as a principle. There you go. Sheila talks about brilliant concept in relation to the travel and I'm so familiar. Jessica Houston, hi Jess, says travel as a marketer was always one of my early motivations. So she agrees with you there. I want to come back on to coolest jobs. So I would have thought that being a McKinsey partner is a pretty cool job. What made you give it up and go independent and then carve out your own path?
Yeah, it's a great question. And Look, I told you about the CMO that I worked with for so long, and then we had a presentation, and he fell back into default mode and got fired. And that really was an iconic moment. The other thing is I got so interested in working with people and trying to help them not make the mistakes that also I made as a marketer. Just blindly go in, and I had this interest, as I said. I was a dean of McKinsey Leadership Program, so it was a hobby. It became actually more important. Now, what we do there is we get people at the end of the program to stand up and say what they really want to do. It's a very emotional process. And a colleague of mine at the time said, Thomas, you're a faculty, but why don't you do it again this time? You haven't done it for years. I mean, why did you join everybody? And I said, okay, that's a good idea. So I did, and I would work with everybody on what I want to do. And I had to stand up at the end and basically say, I actually really want to work and shape the marketing industry. And I come to a realization that maybe I can't do that here. So the consequence could be that I will probably have to leave in front of everybody, because I said that. It took me still half a year, because it's a really cool job. I mean, McKinsey is a fabulous company. It's hard to leave, but I did in the end. And that's because I had to admit to myself that if I want to make my dream happen, I have to make a tough decision, which is give up some money, give up some status, give up some security, confuse everybody around me, family. People are like, what are you doing? To do that. So not easy.
Well, Thomas, what a shining example of following your passion. And being prepared to trade off some things for what's really most important. So all power to you. A key part of what you espouse is the 12 powers. I read the book and have got taken a lot out of it. I particularly love the sort of the 4 dimensions. I won't sort of do any more spoiler alerts, but can you bring to life the 12 powers for everybody? Because I think they are so powerful.
So the key insight from that work, take all that data, right, put it into a network model, shake it a little, and out come the things that matter. And we looked at them, and very naturally, they fall into 4 dimensions, as you said it earlier. And that means as a marketer, you have to be really good, of course, leading a team, including all the skills, no surprise. But you have to be also pretty good at leading your boss, the people that may not know marketing, and help them make better decisions. Where do we learn this? We don't really learn this, but it's important. We also have to learn how to lead our colleagues, all these other departments. Remember when United Airlines crew got police to pull out that one passenger that because they had overbooked and they wanted their own staff to fly, so they pulled out that guy and he was bleeding, and it's like it was huge reputational damage. There's nothing the marketers of United could have done in that moment. But it shows that there are so many other people in a firm that you need to influence for these things not to happen. So you got to learn to do that. And lastly, because you will have tough times as a marketer, there are days when you hate it, not many, but some, you got to also motivate yourself a lot. So those are the 4 dimensions, right? Team, self, boss, and colleagues. And for business success and career success, they have slightly different importance, but they're all 4 are very important. And then each of them has 3 again, and that 4 times 3 gets 12. And then the publisher thought the 12 powers of a marketing leader is a really cool title. I think it's a little bit too long, but it explains the idea.
Sounds good. And sticking on that theme, they're going to be people at different stages of their career listening in, but all aspiring to one day, achieve greatness in the industry. What would be 1 or 2 of the key tips that you may give them that would be helpful for them on their journey to then get and reach to the next levels in their career?
First off, when you're frustrated, always think back whether you actually love the job or not. And many people do, and that will help you overcome those difficulties. Second, I think you got to realize that you will always have to convince people, that not everybody will agree, even if you have the right framework and the right concept and the right model in your back. So that convincing will be part of the job, and make it part of the job. just for example, marketing is about the future, right? Future revenue, future profit. You will never be able to prove that. Never. Finance will always have an easier game when you look at the old numbers. But don't be frustrated. That is the game. Or the fact that people don't report to you and the other departments may say no. And so you got to realize that that is part of your job. So if you realize this early on, it's not a surprise. It's not just you. It's not your company. It is what we are doing as marketers. It's convincing people to change internally and externally. I think it makes it a little easier and certainly, to experiment. These things will never be perfect. I think it's okay to try stuff, try a presentation, try talking to people one-on-one, try getting your boss to tell them. I mean, there are different tools, right? And try to see what works and make it part of your learning to try and figure out how to convince people. Don't take it too serious if you fail. Sorry, that's a stupid sentence to say. When I fail, I take it really serious. But when you step back and have a little bit of time after that, say, it's part of my learning. So a little bit of lightheartedness, when it comes to trying out, convincing people, might go a long way in marketing.
Yeah, too true. And you'd be pleased to know, Thomas, that Gary Pine is, and it is the Gary Pine that I used to work with. Hi, Gary. Said he's just added the 12 powers of a marketing leader to his Audible library. There we go.
I made $1. I appreciate it. That's what I get for each book, right? It's about $1. So if you ever dream of becoming a rich author, right? It's just try something else.
Yeah, but a dollar's a dollar. Yes, there we go. Now, there's also this concept of the value creation zone, which I know you've coined, which I also think is tremendously helpful. So can you explain that one for us a little bit?
Yeah. So you all know the Sony PlayStation, right? It's Sony's most important product. And nobody in Sony wanted it. And there's a guy called Ken Kutaragi as a young engineer, and he did something that got us to think about that value creation zone. Because what he did is, he first off convinced the Sony management that people want gaming. So he really showed that there was a need, that customers wanted, that it's very interesting for people. And that is, of course, what marketers are very good at. We're all very good at, right? We know the need and we know what people want, and we try to find something that works. But here is a big other job he did, is he convinced the entire management that this is a great thing for Sony. It's going to make money. We can do this, which a lot of people doubted. It's ethically okay, which a lot of people challenged. It fits on our roadmap. So he made that entire internal case to make it important for the board. And he created what we call a value creation zone. Basically, there's a customer need, and then there's a company need. And then you basically bring those things to overlap. And that little zone in the middle is the value creation zone. This is where marketers have power. You only have power if you work in that zone. If you're just doing things that are good for customers and the company doesn't care, they'll kick you out. If you only do things that are good for the company, but the customers hate you, you're not going to have any impact. So you got to do both. And that zone is changing and it's moving, and your job is to make it as large as possible by convincing both sides. That's the value creation zone. And if you remember only one marketing leadership concept, remember this. And if everybody in marketing is just trying to see what's my zone, how can I make it larger, I'm sure we'll have more marketers succeed.
I do really like the thought and the visualization of expanding the zone as far as possible. And I think that's actually a really helpful concept in being able to see where a marketer does truly fit within the context of the organization, in the heartland between customer and commerciality. And actually, it's that sweet spot which will make all the difference to someone's career. So that's a super, super little model and visualization to remember.
But very practically, everybody who's listening to this, just list your top 5 projects. Just list them, the top 5 things you're working on. And then you circle the ones where your CEO or your GM or whoever it is would say, that is very important. Right? And then have a look. How many are in there? And what can you do about it? Put more in or cut some and whatever. So very practical thing you can do.
I like that a lot. Thomas, I want to just kind of rewind a little bit around the concept of bravery and perhaps sort of reflecting on the moment in time when you took the brave decision to leave that very secure job at McKinsey, go to the path a bit unknown, and maybe just reflect on a little bit about how did that feel like? How did you feel at that moment in time? But also moving forward in that, what are some of the key ways that you were able to sustain a career the way that you have and forge a career to what you have today in a post-McKinsey world? Because that's probably as important as the moment you take flight into the path less traveled.
I love Bravery as an idea. So I'll answer your question in a second, but it's an interesting one because when the former CEO of the Marketing Society came out and said, bravery is the big topic, I was just laughing and saying, this is just another buzzword, right? Why should marketers be brave? I mean, it just sounds sexy. Come on. And then we got into a fight, into a friendly fight, and then I said, okay, let's do a study. And I'll talk about it in a minute because I want to find out how brave marketers can be. And I learned something in this study that was in fact actually true for my life. And that big learning is that bravery is purpose minus fear. And let me explain that for a second. Because I think I never thought that I would be a brave person. And then some people say, but you did brave things. I don't think that was brave. So, and I can show you some of those examples. Yeah, for example, I was brought up in Germany. I was one of those kids that wasn't interested in school, so I was always looking away. So they kicked me in. And Germany has a tiered school system, so they kicked me in like the worst school. So that's where you basically later on end up as in a very low paid jobs. And then I saw a plane, and I felt that was fascinating. People here can get away. So I had this dream of let's become a pilot, and I was so fascinated by that. And I took some decisions that some people thought would be brave, which is like I asked my parents, I want to get you a different school, even at the same level, so at least have a fresh start, so I'm not a crap kid. And then I want to dress differently because I need to succeed in that school, and I want to go to the next school. So I basically worked my way up in school. Some people said that was very brave because I did it on my own. Well, I didn't feel like it. It was part of a dream. It was part of I want to get there. And then Lufthansa made that assessment and said, sorry, no orientation, you will never become a pilot. Okay, but back to square one, right? Same with marketing. I said, that's the dream job. So how can I get it? I need to do these things. And I was in okay university. I said, I got to bring in some international experience. So I have that was the time it was really hard to get marketing jobs, right? Not like now, but that was really difficult to get into marketing. So I need to go abroad. So I went to Hong Kong to work, basically, with little money, and so that was really brave. And so no, it's part of my journey. Is I want to get into marketing. So I did a few things in my life, and the same is true for what I'm doing now is teaching marketers leadership. Is because I had that dream, I had this idea, and all of a sudden I was able to take decisions that other people considered brave, but I felt, well, it's just what I do. And if you think about it, you all had that moment. I mean, marketers are not normally aggressive people, and most marketers are really friendly, and they're trying to understand. And even if you're super calm and super friendly and really hate conflict, just imagine someone would take your child away, and you just grow over yourself. You just you do things that you wouldn't do normally because you'd no. So and I think that's that big learning. Is that it's not about getting less fearful. It's about having a reason to be brave. And that's how people can do things. And in marketing, it's the same thing. If there's one thing you really want to do in your firm that you really think is so important, you will be much braver than just, doing 55 topics and being a little brave in all of them. So bravery is purpose minus fear. And I think that's my learning, and the data supports it.
Bravery is purpose minus fear. Love that. Just a quick interlude, a couple of comments. Kerry, light bulb moment, marketing is convincing people to change at every level. Sheila, if charm is one of the 12 powers, Thomas has it in spades. Now, so through that journey, Thomas, you've acted with conviction, followed your dreams, and acted with true purpose. And before you mentioned about imposter syndrome, and then we kind of all have it. So what's your personal experience of having imposter syndrome and how you've dealt with it, if there is such a thing?
Oh, I had it. Oh my God. I had look, I told you, right? I was a kid in a crap school. So you're just going into the top school. I mean, you feel shit. You think like everybody here has like 10 times more experience and money than you have. I joined McKinsey after I was like the head of like the guy who had like everybody, the marketing teams. And I had a very nice mentor, and he said, look, we will not value your experience. This is a new job, and just get used to it. So, and it was. The first year was, woo, they let me make copies, and everything I did was wrong. And I felt like, oh my God, I'm going to get kicked out the next morning. But then I get ambitious. I want to prove that that's not true. So in fact, that the imposter that I felt, and imposter is a big word. Imposter, as we know, means a little that people think they're crap and being found out, right? I think I was more like, I'm not good, and it's pretty clear, but it's probably imposter. So I normally give it quite a try and push it a little, and so that actually for me it's a driver. But I also realized that it's not healthy to do this a lot. I think you do it a few times. You just got to get into a mode again where you don't feel that. So I think if someone feels imposter for a little while, it's okay. If it's for too much, I think you just got to do something, because it can't be. I mean, everybody here on that call is smart and intelligent, right? So if you feel imposter a lot, then something's got to change.
But I do like what you just said. In fact, we had Jessica Myers on the show last week, who's the marketing director at Metro Bank. Hi, Jess, if you're listening back. And she talked about a school teacher who was actually quite sort of detrimental at the time, but quite imperative in her motivations to kind of go, I told you so, I'm going to do it differently, and I'm going to show you. And it feels like maybe that moment in time for you is when you were put in that difficult situation in the bottom of the class and the rung, which maybe then, as you say, motivated you to want to get to a new height. Maybe that was even subconscious. Do you think people need that sort of thing sometimes?
Look, there might be people who have always been very happy in everything they do and just fly. And Syl Saller and I have, we partner for the Marketing Leadership Masterclass, and we have that debate. And she said, I never had this big goal. I just do things and then they work out. But then she has consistently the drive to be even better, right? So there is that motivation, and she prepares like crazy for everything, and that's why she's so good. So I think it is a good drive. I mean, I believe it's a good driver, and I believe when people tell you only do your strengths and only do things that are, that you feel good about. I mean, come on, I think it's quite useful sometimes to see where the boundaries are and what you find difficult, and then try to see and overcome it. I'm friends with a young guy. He's 26. His name is Johannes Flores, and he's a very intelligent guy, very sportive, very fascinating. Studies engineering, and the only thing he couldn't do as a kid is walk, because he had his legs and his feet had something called fibular defect, and he basically, as he was in pain, the other kids were laughing about him. He was basically destined to be in a wheelchair, and he is at 16. He said, "Look, I'm not going to be in a wheelchair. Yeah, I'm not going to be in a wheelchair." And he decided for an amputation. And just this Friday in Tokyo, he ran his second Olympic gold. He's the fastest man over 100, 200, 400 meters in his class. So, and it's an incredible story. And it shows again that when there is something that is really difficult for you, it can work as a very strong motivator. Yeah, I realized that you could also get frustrated for 10 years and not get anywhere. I get that. So you need to see where the balance is. But if something is difficult, try to see if you can use that as a driver. Don't immediately say it's bad. It's hard to do at the time. But so I think, yes, I do believe in overcoming difficulties as a driver for success within reason.
What a lovely story and inspiration for all of us. Now, Thomas, when you use the word help, helping others and talked about teaching, your eyes kind of lit up a bit. There's a bit of a flicker there. And it's obviously something that really motivates you. So I suppose my two questions on this is sort of where do you think that desire to help comes from? Where in your past sort of stirred that? And what is that feeling for you of helping others?
So the beauty of studying psychology is that you get a lot of 360 on yourself. So the desire to helping self could have several, and I don't know what the final route is. It could be wanting to fit in, look good, wanting to please others. That's the kind of like the push side. I think I'm also genuinely interested in people, and I believe if everybody in this world would just do a little bit to help others. I mean, it doesn't have to be massive, you know. I think we just live in a nicer place. So I have indeed a strong desire to help to see other people succeed, and I get quite driven by that. In fact, I help more people than probably want help sometimes. And people say, "Yeah, I'm okay." That's okay. That's my driver. It's my driver for helping. So, to your question, where does it come from? I think it could be a strong source. But for me, it creates happiness, and that's all I need to know. And
I really do. I do like that. And I think that one of the key takeaways for me in that is that everybody needs to have a driver and be clear about what that driver is of your life, which then helps you kind of spar on, even sometimes, as you say, logically, irrationally, you know, helping people that may not, you know, may not want it and stuff like that. Just a couple of interludes again. So, hey, Chirag, how's it going? So Chirag wants you to expand on the 4 dimensions of the map, but we'll hold off for that in the interest of time. So sorry, Chirag, you're going to have to buy the book. Saffron says, I love that too, Mark. Saffron says, again, Thomas, a big thank you for sharing so many gems this morning, especially for voicing the challenge upon us to rebuild confidence, not just as individuals, but as a community, a real gift. So you got some lovely, strong motivation coming through from the audience here at the moment, Thomas. So I know we're sort of reaching sort of the end of the session here, and perhaps one of the key things maybe focusing on where you started was around confidence. And as we move back into a sort of a new way of life or an old way of life, whatever it may come, what advice would you have to build confidence and to then help people move into the next era of growth, as we hopefully will see?
I think you can only build confidence by getting confirmation, and it takes some time, right? So confidence is nothing you build overnight. It is creating small successes, and live off them. Also getting confirmation from other people, get connected. So connect back with other people. That's one thing. The other thing I'd say, if you step back, it's a very interesting time in marketing. I know we had a tough year, right? We had lots of budget cuts. Departments being dissolved. I mean, we had like CMO tenure going down again. We had all these. I mean, there's a lot of things that weren't great, but now firms need marketing. Everybody wants to build back. Digital transformation still has to happen. Of course, people also need someone to blame, so we always need marketing. No, but seriously, there's a lot of desire, and the question is, what is it? If you step back and say to yourself, okay, I was in 2021. And a year later, I really made a dent in my industry. What could this be? And could you use that moment of reset that we're in now to do that? In the same way that, for example, I think, Richie, you're building the school with Mark and others. It's something that you've taken and you're making it happen, and it becomes a massive success. And but also, when I look at you, Mark, you hold on to that top job in a top company for a time, and it has to do with the passion that you have for this, and you keep renewing the dream. It's from agile working to all the things you're doing. And everybody else, that's why you guys are so successful. And every market can now think about the same thing. Step back. What's the big difference you can make in that time of reset now? And then start and get going. There's a huge white space right now in this world for marketers, because companies do desperately need good marketers. So pick your next job and do one, and pick one where you can actually do something that you really dream of, that you can make a difference.
What a brilliant way to end, Thomas. What's the big difference you can make? What a great provocation to everybody. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and this is definitely one where I have to say don't be sorry that it's over. Be glad that it happened, because it was a great session with your personal and professional insight. So I'm going to do a bit of a wrap up, and Richie will do his as a close. But huge thank you for coming on. You've given us so much. You started out by saying that you're a planner and things go wrong, and that's how you pivot from piloting to dentistry to consultancy to marketing to and so on. But that's very symptomatic of the curious mind that you have. Whether that's travel or human beings or yourself or the marketing discipline, your curiosity really comes through. You love to help. You love to help building marketing leadership. But also, I think you just fundamentally want to help and make people happy. Well, that's lovely. You talked about the tough decision to leave McKinsey and acting with true purpose. From a professional point of view, the 12 powers, the value creation zone, there's a ton there. I know we've not picked up on a couple of questions. As Richie said, you're going to have to buy the book, I'm afraid, and give Thomas his $1. Bravery is purpose without fear. You followed your dreams. And you used imposter syndrome to drive your ambition, which I think is a lovely flip. But I am going to end where you ended, which is now is the time to identify what's the big difference you can make. It's been wonderful having you on, Thomas. I'll hand to Richie for his words as well.
Okay. Mark, you've certainly summarized beautifully the sentiment. And the two things that I would pick up on is one, when you talked about that early experience of being a young lad, as it were, in school, but then being able to turn that into something so phenomenally successful that it should really inspire others, no matter where you are in the point in life, where if you feel that you're a little bit down, there is an opportunity here to really get back up and use that sort of times to really kind of spar you into the next league of what you're going to do. And my personal reflection on that is throughout my life, I've really used the down and the dumps moments as a springboard moment to then really try and kind of have an exponential spurt thereafter. So I totally relate to that angle there, Thomas. And like as Mark says, the provocation is the time is now, guys. The time really is now, and it's an opportunity where, use the adversity that we're currently sitting in as a moment to both reflect on what people are doing, what you're doing, find your passion moment, and now there's a bit more open, wide space for us marketers to really kind of do something special. And so, with that, it's been an absolute pleasure and treasure, quite honestly, Thomas, to have had you on the show this morning. And I wish you really all the very success. And more so, I actually wish that we end up doing more stuff together. So that's my hope for the future as well. So thank you. And everybody who's tuned in this morning, I hope you've enjoyed that session. Thank you for all your comments, your kind words as well of encouragement as we went through as well. So as you know, we are back next time, this time next week. So do tune in next Friday, 8 a.m. for another episode of The Places We'll Go. See you guys soon. Have a good weekend.